This is the Nomadic Traveler Podcast. Welcome to Nomadic Traveler Podcast. I am your host, Jason, and our lovely and wonderful co-host is here, as always, Miss Nicole.
Hey.
Are you excited about our show?
Pumped.
This show is going to be absolutely fantastic. We get to talk about ghosts.
Dude, did you ever think we were going to get to talk about ghosts on this show?
Not on this show, no. It's a little out of the normal. So.
I'm psyched.
But we somehow managed to bring together the worlds of ghost hunting and travel.
Yeah. See?
So, the best of both worlds.
That's talent.
So, this show is actually very, very good. I did not expect it to be as good as it was.
It's amazing.
I'm not necessarily into ghost hunting myself that much, but I might be now. It's cool.
Yeah.
So if you're not really into ghosts or something, you think, oh, this is going to be boring, this one's not for me, I want to ask you to stick around. Stick it out. I think you might like it better than you think you would.
Yeah, and I think if you like history, you will love this one.
It's also very good at history. What else? Empathy?
Yeah.
There's a lot. We talk a lot about empathy in the show.
There's a guy named Jimmy Johnson?
Thompson.
Thompson, not Johnson. You guys are going to want to hear about Jimmy Thompson.
My favorite guy in the whole show is Jimmy Thompson.
Yeah.
Find out why.
He's might be my new hero.
He's my new hero. I don't know if Jimmy Thompson's a good hero, but...
Hey, he stood for what he believed in.
He's definitely an interesting fellow.
So, yeah, you guys are going to want to hear about it for sure.
Yep. Okay, up next. Who is it?
Kristy.
Kristy. Up next, Kristy Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal. All right, we'd like to welcome to the show Kristy Sumner, and she's going to talk to us about paranormal travel. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
We're doing really well. We're excited to have you. This is going to be a good show, man. This is going to be very different from what we normally do.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. And I thank you so much for asking me to be on tonight. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for taking the time to come on.
Absolutely.
So, all right, tell us a little bit about you and how you got started and what paranormal travel is.
Well, my name is Kristy Sumner, and I'm the founder of Soul Sisters Paranormal. And what we are is a all-female paranormal investigation team. And we're made up of myself, my twin sister, my younger sister, and two family friends. And basically, we travel the country looking for reports of paranormal or quote-unquote haunted activity. And it has allowed us to go to some very unique historical places because the history is what really drives what we do. So to be able to go to these historic places around the country is something that has been extremely amazing for us. So essentially, we travel around the country looking for ghosts.
I love it.
That is so cool. Did everybody have an interest in it, or did one person be like, yeah, I really like this, and then everybody else kind of like, I'll do it with you?
Well, we've always had an interest in the paranormal, and we would watch, the television shows, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, and such. But we would say to ourselves, why didn't they ask this question, or why didn't they use this equipment, or why didn't they tell a little bit more about the history of the locations? Because we really felt that was lacking. And so we told ourselves if we ever had the opportunity to do a paranormal investigation, we'd jump on it. So we had that opportunity in 2013. When we took a girls' trip to Moundsville, West Virginia. So our mother is from Moundsville, West Virginia originally, and we had a family friend sit on the board of the West Virginia State Penitentiary, which is one of the most haunted locations in the country. And he said, I know you guys are coming up here for your girls' trip. Why don't you spend the night in the prison and see what you find? So we did. We got locked in the prison for the night, and we had some voice recorders and some digital cameras and a night vision camera. And we found some what we considered extremely compelling paranormal activity. So we decided that after that, we really wanted to formalize our group and really go around the country and look for similar activity.
Okay, so do you ever have anything crazy happen? Do you get scared?
I say we get startled more than we get scared, because, for us, we go into these locations expecting to see something or hear something that we can't explain. And so it's kind of disingenuous for us to be running out or screaming when we're going in looking for these things. So but on that being said, when a cell door slams in front of you or you see a shadow figure pass in front of you and you can't explain that, that is definitely startling.
That's what I was thinking.
We've had those moments for sure. Yes.
I love that. Are you going to go do it, Nicole? Would you like to do it?
So,
do you think you could tag along?
I don't know. I'll watch the video of it.
So, yeah, speaking of videos, do you have videos?
We do. Yes, we do. We self-produce our videos. We've got 13 of them up on our website and our YouTube channel currently. And they're places from all over the country, places that we have certain criteria. The first thing is we want to visit some place that's historical, something that has a unique history or unique facts that we can really delve into and give those facts to our audience, convey those facts through our video, and intrigue our audience enough to where they would want to visit that location. So, for example, Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia, the Villisca Axe Murder House in Iowa, the St. Augustine Lighthouse in Florida. See, these are all places that we've visited and for their history as well as their reports of paranormal activity. So that's our second caveat. It has to be something that has some type of report of paranormal activity. And then what we do is we research those locations. We delve into what events happen there, their place in American history, why they're important, and really go into very specific facts about who was there. If we can delve down into specific family members or soldiers or something, a person that was really germane to that location, and we try to connect with them when we go in and do our paranormal investigations.
This is cool. This would make a good TV show. Have you guys looked into that?
Well, I will say we've been approached by two producers, one out of LA and one out of Canada. The problem is they want us to change our style and our format, and we're not willing to do that. So, if the opportunity for a television show comes up, then absolutely we would welcome that. But for right now, we're extremely content doing what we're doing, which is traveling together as sisters, as friends, getting to experience these locations that not a lot of people get to experience, and then documenting them for our audience, as well as possibly putting out there some unexplained evidence.
Okay, so can we pry a little bit? Like, we want to pry a little bit. What are they trying to make you change?
Well, one actually asked if we would put a male on the team, and that just for us would change the dynamic.
That's not cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we figured. And then another one was really adamant about the fact that they wanted full control of our brand and our logo, which is trademarked to us. And that was something that I wasn't really willing to concede on. So at that point, we walked away from the table on that negotiation.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's something that's normal. Do you know if that's normal for them to want to control your brand?
From what I heard, it is. But again, for us, this isn't about becoming a television show or becoming something in the mainstream. What we really want to do is highlight these historic locations and then maybe add to the narrative of paranormal investigations and paranormal activity. And I feel we can do that through what we're doing now, which is our YouTube channel and our website. While it'd be cool to have a television show, there are just certain standards and things that I'm not willing to concede on. So, and if it doesn't come to fruition, that's great. We're enjoying doing what we're doing now.
I say good for you, because I don't think you should compromise anything.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you.
I think what you're doing is amazing, and I wouldn't compromise any of that stuff. And why would you put a guy on Soul Sisters? That makes no sense at all. That's not cool.
Exactly. Really trying to change that format, because for us, the all-female aspect, it is something that's extremely unique in what we call the paranormal community. And I think it brings a sense of empathy to these locations that we go into. We don't go in with a lot of bravado. We don't go in with any chest pumping, saying, "Hey, if you're here, knock me down or throw something at me, or else I'm not going to believe you're here." That's really not what we do. We go in with a very scientific mindset. We all have advanced degrees on the team. I have a PhD. My sister has a PhD. We have 2 JDs and a master's holder on the team. So we go in with a very scientific approach to try to first really debunk anything that we can as environmental, whether it be air or noise or light pollution. If we can debunk that, we feel that is our job as well. And then absent any environmental conditions that we find that cause these things, we will say that they're unexplainable. And I think because we're an all-female team, that lends a little bit more to some empathy about the location and a little bit more empathy into what happened there and why this place is historic.
One thing I was wondering about that, because you said empathy and you were talking about the history of these places and really diving into like a person or somebody specific that's been there. Have you ever met like any family members or anybody that's tied to these individuals that you've been able to be like, hey, we went there, we experienced this? Or is that something you'd be interested in doing in the future if you were able to figure that out?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to be able to do that. I think the closest one that we've come to for that example would be the Ma Barker house in Ocklawaha, Florida. And this was the site of the location of the 1935 shootout between the FBI and 2 members of the Barker Karpus gang, Ma Barker and her son, Fred Barker. And the FBI surrounded this very nondescript house that they were renting in Ocklawaha, and a shootout ensued. It is still the longest shootout in FBI history, and Ma and Fred were killed in this house. Because that was in 1935, I've had the opportunity to connect with some members of the extended family of Ma and Fred. So, they've given us a little bit of historical background, probably more so than some of the history books. So that's been a neat connection. We've had some other experiences where we'll go to a location and they'll say, yeah, my great granddaddy fought here, or if it was in the case of a fort, or, my father was imprisoned here if it was the case of a prison. So we've had those loose connections that we found. But some of the places that we've gone to, I mean, we're talking built in the 1800s. So finding some of those family connections, those close family connections, are a little bit difficult.
Yeah, that's really cool, though, to get to know somebody that knew somebody at least. Right? That's awesome. Yeah, it makes it a lot more personable. So what does research at these sites look like at the site? And then also, like, when you come back, how do you compile like your data?
Well, the first thing that we do when we know we're going to investigate a location, like say, for example, again, Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia, we'll research that location first. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One, we really want to know what we're walking into, the historical background behind it, because we feel that that's very important in order to ask and formulate questions for our investigation. And then we, like I said before, we want to delve into if we can get into specific people that were there so we can try to communicate with them at the location. So then when we go to the location, again, staying with the Fort Mifflin example, we can ask questions very specific. So for example, when we did our research on Fort Mifflin, we knew that there was a guy by the name of William Howe who during the Revolutionary War was tried for treason, and he was put into a solitary confinement cell before he was hung in the fort. So when we went to the location, when we went to Fort Mifflin, we went to that solitary confinement cell, and we were asking very specific questions to William Howe. We took what we call trigger items. So we took some water, we took some cigarettes, some bread, some things that we felt somebody in solitary confinement would want. And so we left all of that in there for him, and we did some other question sessions around the fort. And then two of us, myself and Cara, went back and we were talking in that location inside the solitary confinement cell. And I said, William, if you're here, we left you some water, we left you some cigarettes. And very clearly we get a male voice saying thank you. And that was picked up on all of our audio equipment. So I think because we really connected with him on that individual level, I think that's the reason he responded to us. So to your question, we really want to delve into the research prior, and that's the reason why. And then afterwards, we will do a very general and overview of the history of the location. So we'll go to things like, or I'll research things like, we'll go to the Smithsonian, we'll go to the Library of Congress. In that case, I'll go to the Philadelphia Archives or the library and try to find as much information as I can about the location and about those people. And then we condense that into between probably a 2 and 5 minute intro to our videos, so people can see what the history is about and why it's important.
Wow, that is so cool.
That's really cool, actually.
Have you ever gone back to listen to an audio or visual thing that you've recorded during the investigation and then heard something or saw something you didn't hear or see during the actual investigation?
That's a good question.
Oh, absolutely. And that is a great question. And that's about 80% of what we do. When we go to these locations, we're there for probably 8, 10, in some cases 24 hours. And when we go there, we leave what we call stationary equipment in different parts of that location. So for example, when we went to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in Petros, Tennessee, we had 20 night vision video cameras and we had 10 voice recorders. So we left them running, we turned them on and we leave them running throughout the entire time that we're there. So then once we're done with the investigation, we'll go back and sit and watch all of the footage and listen to all of the audio. And so we'll capture things that will happen when we weren't even in the building. So for example, footsteps, doors slamming, people saying, "Help me," slapping on the wall, different things like that, or hellos. We get a lot of that when we're not even in the building or in the area. And then when we're also listening to them, we'll hear ourselves, obviously, and we get a lot of responses that we did not hear in the moment. So, like, for example, we'll be sitting there doing what we call an EVP session, and we're asking these questions. And even though we didn't hear it audibly at the moment, we pick it up on our voice recorders. So that happens, I'd say, probably 75 to 80% of the time.
Okay, so what is an EVP session?
Okay, an EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena, and what that is it's a voice or a noise or a sound that's caught on our audio equipment that we did not hear in the moment. So when I say an EVP session, we actually go and sit in like a jail cell or an insane asylum room or somewhere. We'll sit and we'll ask questions, and we call it an EVP session because we're expecting most of those responses to not be audible in the moment. And we'll hear them later on the voice recorder. Okay. Sometimes we do get lucky. There's been a lot of times where we've heard things in the moment, and we can respond to those, which is actually very cool. But like I said before, I think a majority of what we catch is stuff we don't hear in the moment.
Okay, so how long does it take you to go through all your footage afterwards? That's got to be like forever. Does it take you like a week or?
No. And I think that's where popular media shows really do a disservice to the paranormal community because, you see these shows, again, like Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventurers, which are the two most popular right now. And they have this whole thing wrapped up in 60 minutes. You've got the investigation, you've got the historical part, you've got the reveal, and everything's done in 60 minutes. But for us, it literally takes about 4 weeks to go through everything. Wow. So from the time we do an investigation to when I edit and release the videos, it's a good maybe 2 months, 2 months to get all of that done.
And then how long are your videos online? How long do you have like episodes, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can call them episodes. So we've got 13 of them, and they range anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. I think our longest is maybe 36, just because we had so much history to convey on that one. But we try to keep them short. We don't want people to spend 7 hours watching our videos. So we really condense for the audience, with the majority of it being history. So what we do, our format is you learn about the history of the location in our first, like I said, 2 to 4 minutes. And then I'll give you the setup of the location, such as, how many investigators were there, where we left the equipment. And then you'll have a short segment on the actual investigation. You'll see us doing EVP sessions and such. And then at the end, I'll show you the evidence that we found.
Okay, so you actually have a hard time picking what goes in because you're really condensing it down. So
Yeah, for the majority of it, not the historical part. The historical part really comes pretty easy, because we can put in historical pictures and stuff like that, and really bring that to life, which again is our driving factor. If I feel that I can convey enough information to get you to go to these locations, such as Fort Mifflin or Brushy Mountain or the Exchange Hotel in Gordonsville, Virginia, if I can get you to visit these locations and help preserve that history, then that is my main focus, and I feel that is my job. The secondary part is the unexplainable paranormal evidence. So in that regard, we try to put in all of the paranormal evidence or unexplained evidence that we find that night. Sometimes there's a lot, and we in the interest of time, we don't put that in there. But as far as actual investigation video and footage, yes, we highly condense that.
Have you ever wanted to go back to a place again after listening to your audio again? Or have you ever went back and tried to, if maybe there was a conversation you were having with someone and you wanted to go finish it or do more of an investigation?
And that's a great question, and we've done that. We've done that with the old Gilchrist County Jail, which is in Trenton, Florida, and we've done it with Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, again in Petros, Tennessee, and we've done that with the St. Augustine Lighthouse in St. Augustine, Florida. And that's exactly the reason that we go. In the case of Brushy Mountain, we captured so much unexplainable evidence on our first investigation there that we took that and we tried to find those historical figures, or those prisoners, if you will, and try to mirror or try to match up who they were in history, and then go back and try to have that same communication or try to follow up with that conversation on our return visit. And I think we did. For example, there's a place on the campus of Brushy Mountain there called The Hole. And again, this is a subterranean solitary confinement cell. It actually has 5 cells in it. And they would lock these guys in there. It's completely dark. They would lock them in there for sometimes up to 30 days and just giving them a little bit of water, a little bit of bread, and as punishment for something that they'd done in the prison. And so the first time that we went there, we actually captured some amazing footsteps and the voice of what we later found out was a gentleman by the name of G. His name was George, but he went by G. And so the next time we went back, the second time, we were able to ask follow-up questions of that, and we were getting responses. So that is a great example of your question. So yeah, Brushy Mountain, Old Gilchrist County Jail, those are extremely interesting places to go to.
How did you find out it was George?
Because we asked the questions on the second time, and we were getting what we call intelligent knocks and responses. And then we also have electronic equipment. The main things that we use electronically are called K2 meters, and they're used to measure energy. So, for example, if I have a K2 meter and I stand out in the middle of a field with no electricity, it's not going to go off because there's no electricity acting upon it. If I were to hold it next to a microwave, it would go all the way to the highest setting, which is red, and because there's a lot of energy by the microwave. So when you go into these locations that have no power, theoretically they should not go off. So when you're sitting there and you're sitting it on the floor and it's been dormant and not doing anything, and you start asking questions and it starts flashing in response, we consider that pretty compelling evidence. And so that's what we were doing at Brushy Mountain. We were getting responses on our K2 meters.
That's super cool.
I know. So for the ones that you went back to, do you feel like the spirits or the ghosts knew that you were back for a second time, or you could continue a conversation with them, or it was maybe they weren't recognizing that who you were just a person there?
I think at Brushy Mountain, and as well as the old Gilchrist County Jail, I think there was a sense of knowing, because we said, we were here before, do you recognize us? And we were getting some what I feel would be compelling, intelligent responses to that. Another place that I've gone to, and I completely blanked on this one, that I've gone to numerous times is the Ma Barker House in Ocklawaha, Florida. So again, that location, the site of the 1935 FBI shootout, we were the first team, and to date the only team that's been allowed to investigate at that house. And we came away with some very compelling evidence that Ma and Fred Barker, the spirits of Ma and Fred, are still in that house. And afterwards, I was so moved by that investigation that I became a volunteer and a docent at the house. So I lead tours there, well, until COVID, pretty much I was there on a weekly basis. So there will be times where I'll go in by myself and just say, hey, Ma, and I'll hear something in response, either a knock or there's been times where I've caught a hey or a whisper, a hi or a good morning. So yeah, the Ma Barker house, now that I remember that one, has been my most compelling with regard to going back and getting additional responses.
How did you get this specialized? How did you get to go in and when nobody else could?
Well, so the Ma Barker house has a very interesting history. It was built in 1930, and it was rented, as I said before, by Ma and Fred Barker, and it was rented under the assumed name of T.C. Blackburn because they were running from J. Edgar Hoover at the time, who was tasked by the president to go after them because they were a very ruthless gang. So they rented this house. The owner had no idea who they were. It was actually his vacation home, and he was out of town, so he just decided to rent it to them. He had no idea who they were, and he comes back, and 2 months later, it's shot to hell because of the FBI shootout. And what he did was he actually, the family had the presence of mind to preserve the house as it was in 1935. So when you walk in now, there's bullet holes in the wall. There's furniture that has bullet holes in it. The floors are original, the doors, the sconces, everything is original as it was in 1935. In 2016, the family decided that they wanted to sell the house. They wanted to sell the land, and the person that bought it did not want the house, so they were going to either demolish it or get rid of it in some way, form, or fashion. So Marion County, Florida, decided that they would take ownership of the house. So in 2016, they put it on a barge and they floated it across Lake Weir, and about 2.5 miles to a new location where it sits now. And it's in Carney Island Recreation Park is where it sits now. And so after it moved, because I had grown up only about 10 miles from that location, I've always been fascinated by it. So after the move, I went to Marion County and I sat down with them. I explained to them who I was and what I did. And because I'm a fourth generation Ocala native, as well as somebody who comes across as a little bit more professional in the paranormal world, they decided to allow me to be the one to investigate that. And so afterwards, like I said, it was just such a fascinating place just for the history of it, that I've just felt compelled to go back and become a volunteer there.
That's an amazing part of the history too, that they moved the house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like I said, the entire history behind the Barker Carpus gang, how they came to be in Central Florida, what happened to the gang itself, and all of it, and the social and political structure behind it is just an amazing story in and of itself. And then to know that the family of the house actually preserved it was, to me, extremely thoughtful. They had a lot of foresight in the fact that this could some way, form, or fashion be a historic location. And so, yeah, Marion County, like I said, moved it, and it was fascinating to watch. Like I said, they put it on this barge, and it was such a gentle move that they not even the chimney shook, because it's a 2-story, 4-bedroom house.
So, okay, in your opinion, do you think that waters down the history that it's not on the original land, or do you think it actually adds to it?
That's a great question. And for me, I don't think it waters it down. And the reason is Ma and Fred Barker had no ties to the land. They were nomadic in life. They had hideouts throughout their entire tenure as gang members. So they never had a permanent address. In my mind, they're going to stay with the place where they were killed, because that's the last place that they really had an address, if you will. And they had no ties to the land. So, and that was one of the things that I questioned when we did the paranormal investigation there was, is it going to be that they come with the house? And my theory was yes, that they would come with the house. And I think through our experiments that we did there and the investigation that we did there, the compelling evidence that we captured, I believe that they're with the house.
Wow.
I love that. That's really cool.
And it's very cool that it's like personal to you, that you grew up like right around the corner. How cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very awesome. Do you have any other like kind of favorite places that you've been when you were investigating, or any like side trips that you've done on your way, cool things you've seen on your way to these sites before?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And let me just say, all of the locations that we've gone to have just been fascinating in their own right. When somebody asks me what's my favorite place, it's really hard to pick, because we've been to such amazing historical locations, and it's very hard to narrow down. But what I usually do is I take it with regard to paranormal activity first. The one that I would consider to be the most active would be the Old Gilchrist County Jail, again in Trenton, Florida, followed by Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, and then Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia. But all of the locations that we've gone to, we've been very fortunate to capture what we feel is compelling, unexplainable evidence. But then to answer your question, the side trips are the things that excite us the most about these. So because of what we do, I take the equipment and I drive. Everybody else will fly in to some extent because we all are all over the country. I'm based in Central Florida. We have a couple in Virginia, one in North Florida, and then one in South Florida. So I always drive. And sometimes my sisters will join me. Other times they'll fly in. But the last investigation that we did was the Lizzie Borden house in Fall River, Massachusetts. And so I drove from Florida to Massachusetts, and we're actually joined by another paranormal investigator, Miranda Young from Ghost Biker Exploration. She collaborated with us on that investigation. So we drove, and we actually stopped in Gettysburg. We stopped in Sleepy Hollow, New York, which was fantastic. We did that. We were there for a couple of days, and we did some mini side investigations on the way to the Lizzie Borden house.
Love it.
Huh. Very cool. Very cool. Now, you told us about a place in Mississippi with a mobile electric chair.
Oh, yeah.
Tell our listeners
We got to ask about that.
Yeah, so we actually did an investigation. It was actually a weekend investigation in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. And the interesting things about Kosciuszko, Mississippi is that Oprah Winfrey was born there, and it's the start of the Natchez Trail. So in Kosciuszko, they have a haunted funeral home, a reportedly haunted funeral home, and a reportedly haunted jail. And one of the claims is that during the early 1940s, that an electric chair, a mobile electric chair, would be taken to the jail, and the prisoners would, that were due to be executed, would be executed. And that is actually legitimate. So in 1940, the state of Mississippi decided that it wanted something a little bit more humane than the gallows, than hanging executions. So they wanted to do an electric chair, but they couldn't decide, how that would look or where it would be housed. So in 1940, they decided to come up with the mobile electric chair. So they put it on the back of a truck, and they had a guy by the name of Jimmy Thompson. He was the executioner. They paid him $100 every time he executed somebody, and he would drive it from county to county. And anybody that needed, their time had come, to be executed, he would perform the executions. So that was in operation from 1940 to 1952. And I believe there was 55 people electrocuted in the mobile electric chair.
From all different jails or from that same jail?
No, from all different jails.
Okay.
He would travel around. Yeah, he would travel around the state.
That's a lot.
He would travel around the state with that. So between 1940 and 1952, making stops in Kosciuszko apparently. So going into that jail, it's a small jail. I think the max capacity was 27 inmates, but it was interesting because they had a suicide cell, they had a drunk tank, they had a lunatic cell where they would put anybody who was crazy. Men and women were housed there. So getting to investigate that was extremely interesting for us. Mm-hmm. And it was we're actually still going through the evidence on that one because we did that investigation in February of this year. So we're still going through all of that evidence from that and the funeral home. But it was just an amazing experience to see the history, to be in downtown Kosciuszko, to be there, drive through Mississippi, to see the jail, to know that history. So yeah, the mobile electric chairs is something. I think it's the only state that had something like that.
So Jimmy Thompson made $5,500
I just
people.
sat over here and did the math myself.
Which is a lot of money in the 1940s.
But that was over 12 years, she said. It was
True,
1940.
Yeah.
So
do we know much about Jimmy Thompson? And what was his normal job?
I'm going to say, that had been a side.
He was a former sailor, apparently just a tattooed up guy. And he really had no qualms about, pushing the button, I guess.
Wow. See, I was wondering if he was like a coroner or something like that, or worked in
No,
a funeral
no.
home or something like that.
Just
Did-
the guy that
Did
applied
he
for the
dispose
job
of the
and got it.
bottle or the body?
I have no idea. I've not delved that specifically
For an
into
extra
it.
100?
I would assume no, but I haven't delved that much into it.
Jimmy's a
But
very
again,
interesting
it's-
character to me. Jimmy
Yeah.
would make a good show for you.
There you go. And so, but see, that's the thing that's so fascinating about what we get to do. It's we're allowed. I mean, we're finding these places and these little facts that you didn't know, that our audience doesn't know, and to be able to convey that to a larger audience, to get people to say, hey, I'm right down the road from Kosciuszko, or we're going into Mississippi on a motorcycle trip. Maybe we can stop in Kosciuszko and see these locations. That, like I said, that's our main drive in this. If we can get people talking about these historical locations, that's my job. That's what I feel I'm called to do with this paranormal investigation. Don't get me wrong, the paranormal activity, the unexplainable things that we've seen and heard and felt and smelt in some cases, is fascinating and really the driving force. But to be able to highlight these locations is really what it is all about for us.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially because, like, as a mental health professional, I was just thinking of how cool it would be to kind of see our history in mental health, as far as, like, all these different rooms you were talking about, loony bin rooms and all these things, to be interested to see that and to appreciate where we've come, even though sometimes it feels like we haven't come very far. It would be kind of cool. So I could see how people would get value out of going back and learning these things.
I guess at least we don't do electroshock therapy anymore.
That's true.
And that's funny you bring that up, because we went to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia. Again, one of the most haunted locations in the U.S. And, the thing that I really enjoy about traveling like this is you read about these things on Google, or you read about them in a book and you see pictures of them, but to actually have that tactile experience, to walk up to some place like the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which is a massive structure, to see that scale in person is something that it always makes me in awe when we can visit these locations that you, like I said, you see on TV or you read about in a book. To be able to be there is the experience that we're looking for. That's what we're doing this for. But back to Trans-Allegheny, that was a location that was built in 1864. It was in operation until 1994, and it was only built to hold 250 basically lunatics, those with mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And it was designed in the Kirkbride fashion, which is where they really felt that, space and sunlight and one-on-one care, was the way to help people with mental illness. But it really progressed into this horrific place where at its closing in 1994, there was over 2,400 people housed in this facility that was really only built to hold 250. So they were doing things like electroshock therapy. They were doing things like lobotomies and shot and cold water treatments and such. So to go into that place and to do a paranormal investigation there is very interesting, because you feel, at least for us, you feel the sadness and, for lack of a better term, negativity essentially permeate from the walls because of the things that happen there. Because, you probably, those patients really didn't have a happy time. They didn't have a happy moment. So when you walk in, it's a very overbearing feeling. And it was interesting because we were there that night, and we actually had a guest investigator. He was a male investigator. So we had, there was four of us, four Soul Sisters Paranormal investigators, one male investigator, and then they had a volunteer on the location. So she was showing us around, and we had already set up our equipment. And so we were talking to her all of us were on the property. All of us on the property that night were in one area at the very end of this hallway. And we're talking, and this blood-curdling scream comes from down the hallway. Every piece of equipment that we had running picked it up. That's how loud it was. And it was a scream that you would likely have heard when the place was in operation. Mm-hmm. So again, that to us is just validation of what happened in those walls.
Yeah.
That's almost scarier and sadder than going to like the jails or something like that,
Yeah. I think it go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's important for people to hear that, though. They need to hear, to know that this is our history, but it's really not that far away. Like, I think lobotomies they didn't end that long ago. Like, you think of them as so long ago, but it wasn't. It
Well,
really,
think about this. She said this place closed in '94. That's not
Yeah.
really that long ago at all.
yeah,
Yeah,
when
exactly.
you can connect like that, and you think of wow, like these things were not that long ago, right? So.
Yeah, and that's kind of the instance with a lot of the places that we go to, again because we are looking for that historical factor as well. But to your point, Jason, for when we go to these locations, they are so different. The jails are going to be different than the insane asylums, and those are going to be different than the lighthouses, and those are going to be different than the Civil War hospitals that we've gone to. And so for us, we really have to get in that mindset of why we're going there and what we're going to encounter. So we have different things. We go in with a different mentality, if you will, to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum than we would to the St. Augustine Lighthouse or the Lizzie Borden House. You really have to hone your investigation skills to really reflect the investigation that you're going to do.
Okay, so going back to your blood curdling scream, do you guys carry any kind of protection? I mean, are you worried about not necessarily paranormal, but like real people?
Yeah, most of the time the real people scare me more than the dead.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so we all carry. We do have handguns on us, and that's just something that we've chosen to do for self-protection. And then the spiritual protection, we do say a prayer of protection before we go in, and we say a prayer of protection when we come out. And we also go in with what I consider the right intentions. And for us, it really is a legitimate want to know. We really, like I said before, try to connect with these spirits or entities, if you will, on a very quote unquote human level. And because we feel that what we're connecting with was at some point human. And in real life, the need to be seen, the need to be a part of something is the human experience, right? So when we go to these locations, we really try to connect with them. We tell them, every one of our episodes, you'll hear the phrase, "We want to tell your story. We want to tell your story." And that's legitimately what we're trying to do. So when we go to these locations, we really do want to try to tell that story if anybody wants to tell it to us. So like I said, we do go in with that prayer protection. We do go in with personal protection. It is because you're going to these places at dark. Some of these places are in unsavory neighborhoods. It's just something that we've chosen to do.
Yeah, because I was thinking even with them being abandoned and stuff, there's a lot of danger to that.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we went to the old Gilchrist County Jail, this is the first time this has happened. The owner said, "Okay, before you go in, do you all carry?" And the first investigation, it was just myself and Miranda Young from Ghost Biker Explorations. She and I collaborated on this. We wanted to be the only two people on the property that night. So she said, "Do y'all carry?" And we're like, "Yes, we do." And she said, "All right, I highly recommend you carry your guns with you at all times during the night." And I said, "Okay, perfect." So this jail, again, it's about 45 minutes west of Gainesville, Florida. And it's a small jail. It was built in 1928 and it operated till 1968. It's 2 stories. But it only has 4 cells on each story. So it's a very small footprint. And then connected to it in the back is a small jailer's house. So when it was built in 1928, I'm sorry, it was 1928 to 1968. I might have said that wrong earlier. But when they built it in 1928, they did not have the jailer's house. So they would put these people in jail for anything, spitting on the sidewalk, cussing, you could be thrown in jail. So they'd put you in the jail, and then the jailer would lock the door and go home at night. And if you were alive when he came back the next morning, well, kudos to you. So there was numerous reports of deaths by other prisoners in this jail. So then, in the early 1940s, they decided to put the jailer's house back there to have more monitoring of the prisoners at night. So it's a very, what I would consider darker place. And so when we went in, Miranda and I, like I said, we had our pistols on us. and we weren't really feeling anything that night to begin with, and we weren't really getting any hits on any of our equipment. And so Miranda said, maybe they think we're law enforcement, maybe they think we're cops. So we took our pistol, we said, okay, we're going to take our guns off because we're not law enforcement, we're going to show you. So we put our pistols on one of the cots there, and we backed away and said, we're not cops, we're putting our guns here nice and slow. And right behind us, a guy said, good. And we captured that on audio. And after that, the night was awesome. We were capturing shadow figures. We were capturing every piece of equipment that night started going off. We were both seeing shadow figures. We captured them on night vision video cameras. It became an amazing night for us. So that's one place that I highly recommend with regard to paranormal activity.
Is there often a turning point like that whenever you do these? Is there something that usually kind of triggers everything? Is like a springboard?
Sometimes, and that's a great question. We actually do take what we call trigger items, and those are things that would be germane to the situation, such as in a jail. Cigarettes is a big thing for us when we go to jails. Whiskey, we take some bourbon, we take water. That's always a big thing, and we don't just leave it in a water bottle. We'll actually take a plastic cup and pour it into the cup, just to say, here, this is water for you. And so we really try to look for those trigger items that would, again, be something that would be known to somebody in the location. The best one that I think we've done so far was at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville, West Virginia. One of the prisoners there, bad guy, he was the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood. He was a murderer. He was in for multiple murders. And basically he ran the prison. Anybody that he wanted dead that he didn't like, other prisoners would kill him. And so he really ruled the roost there at Moundsville. And so he had two vices. The first one was cigarettes, and the second one was watching Days of Our Lives. So every day they would wheel a TV in front of his cell, and he'd watch Days of Our Lives. So he was actually killed in the prison by another prisoner who wanted to get ahead in the rival gang. And so when we went to do our investigation, I knew that he liked Days of Our Lives. So I downloaded an episode of Days of Our Lives onto my laptop. And I left it run in his cell alone. We turned it on and we walked away for an hour. We went to another part of the jail. And so we came back and we did one of those EVP sessions. And I said, Red, did you see all the stuff that we left you? And we got an audible yes. We caught it on the audio, and then we had an amazing K2 session. And the why I call it amazing is because, again, these things do not go off if there's no electricity, and there was no electricity in the building. So we're holding them, and they had not gone off before. So meaning that there's no electricity, and we don't carry anything on us that gives off an electrical charge at all. So we have a gray one, a meter, and a black meter. And so we were saying, if you're here, go to the gray meter, and the gray meter would light up and then would stop. And they're only about a foot and a half away from each other. So you would think if there's any type of energy, they would both be going off. But we were saying, if you're here, go to the gray one, and it went to the gray one. Okay, just to confirm, can you now go to the black one? And just the black one went off. And so we did this back and forth with numerous questions for about 20 minutes. And so at the end, we said, if you light up both of our meters, we'll leave some cigarettes for you. But if you don't, we're going to take the cigarettes with us. So on the count of 3, you need to light up both meters at the same time, and both of them went off. And afterward, I said, thank you. And right behind me, a guy said, no, thank you. So that was extremely compelling. And that's a very good example of a trigger item.
That's cool.
That's amazing.
That's a good story.
Love that. So for anyone that's listening out there that's like, this is for me, right? I'm into this. What do you suggest? Like, how should they start, or where should they go first, or should they take someone with them? What's your advice on that?
Well, for me, I would say just grab a voice recorder, just a standard Sony voice recorder, and either find a location near you that's reported to be haunted, or go to a cemetery and just ask questions. Just start asking questions, and it may seem like you're talking to yourself or to the air for a couple hours, but that's fine. And then go back and listen, and you really have to listen. I say a lot of people hear, but not a lot of people listen. And for us, listening is a very big deal because, like I said, we sometimes have upwards of 200 hours of audio, and we go through it all. And not a lot of people, I think, have the patience to do that. But we feel that it's right for us, and that's what we want to do. We want to give this as the truest investigation that we can give it. And so you got to listen. You got to go back and you got to listen to that audio. And then there are paranormal teams out there. If you want to join a paranormal team, just contact them. A lot of teams will allow you to join them. Go and do a ghost walk or a ghost tour in New Orleans or St. Augustine and take a voice recorder with you and see if you capture anything there. But it really is going in with the right intentions and then finding the locations. They're all over the country, and just get in the car and drive in somewhere in your backyard. We'll have a reported paranormal location, and just go find it and start asking questions.
We have Story, right? Story, Indiana. Have you ever heard of Story, Indiana?
I have. Yes, I have.
Yeah, so that's supposed to be the haunted area that's probably closest to where we are. So, and I guess there's a haunted inn there, I believe.
I think so. Yep. I think Willow's Weep is also in Indiana, and that is right now one of the hottest locations with regard to paranormal investigations. It's supposed to be one of the most haunted locations in the country. It's a little nondescript house. I can't remember the town, but Indiana has a lot of places that are reported to be haunted.
And I was just thinking this might be something that's more safe, like a safer travel during COVID. Right, because if you're going there by yourself,
there's not going to be anybody around. I don't think you're going to get COVID from a spirit, right?
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
now, I will say, and that's a funny question. I will say you don't want to do this by yourself. You always want to have somebody with you, and that's just for good safety reasons. Because a lot of these places, they are abandoned. They do have hazards. And so you do need to take somebody with you and let a third person know what your plans are, just in case. You want to be cautious with regard to just physical cautiousness and also spiritual cautiousness.
Yeah, make your quarantine partner go with you.
Right.
There you go.
We had
Yes,
thought about
absolutely.
going. There's actually some abandoned amusement parks in Indiana too.
Correct.
That
Yeah, there's a
we would
couple of
like
them.
to go to, but haven't made it.
Yeah.
That would be a good Corona thing too.
Yeah.
I would
You can-
love to do that. I have not done an abandoned amusement park yet, but I would absolutely love to do that. Again, just for the historical aspect, just to see that and to know the history behind it would be a very cool place to investigate and to document.
Yeah, let's go.
Can you think of the name of the place in Southern Indiana? I can't think of that one
I
now.
can picture it. I've looked at the pictures a million times. It was like
I think it's off of 65, just north of Louisville.
It was
in
by the
southern
river,
Indiana.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
close to the river.
I can't think of the name of it either, but
That might be a good one to check out.
yeah.
Yeah, Miranda Young, the woman that I mentioned earlier, she was actually just in Indiana at Willow's Weep a couple of weeks ago. So she's investigated there. She also investigated Revenant Acres up there and had an amazing investigation, which was an old farmhouse. I don't believe they still allow paranormal investigations, but like I said, Indiana is a great state, and really any state. You look at anywhere in the country, small towns have legends and lore and stories that have been told down throughout the generations. So you can absolutely find places to go and investigate. It really is, like I said, just an amazing experience to have these tactile experiences, to get outside of Google, to get outside of a history book, and really connect with those locations. It's something that you really do have to experience for yourself.
So I looked up Willow's Weep while we were just talking, and it looks like it's about maybe an hour north of Terre Haute. Okay. So it's right on the border of Indiana and Illinois.
Okay.
So not too far.
Yeah. Go check it out.
Yeah,
While
check it out, guys. It's in a place I can't pronounce it. It's Cayuga.
Cayuga?
Yeah. Sorry if I'm butchering that. That's the little town that
We
it's
should
in.
know that since it's our local state.
Cayuga. That's it. We're just gonna say it.
All right. Go to Cayuga. Check it out.
Do it.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our segments now. Our first segment is called the Don't Do That. And the Don't Do That is a travel mistake that you have made somewhere along the way that our listeners could benefit from not doing themselves.
Okay, I've actually got two. The first one is don't overpack. That took me a long time to figure that out. Overpacking is something that it can be a travel killer. You're lugging all of this stuff. Just kind of lay out your days, wear multiple outfits, a couple of times, and just don't overpack. And then the other one I would say is over planning. For me personally, I love going to places where I don't have a set itinerary. For example, I went to London one time and I didn't have a map. I'd only been there once before. I didn't have a map. I didn't have a plan, and I just walked. And it was amazing the things that you can find just by walking and not planning. And so for me now, when I travel, I very rarely overplan. I may do a day excursion here or there or something, but it's all about being spontaneous. And for me, being spontaneous, you see so many different things that are off the beaten path, and these little gems that you find that you just didn't even know were there. And so for me, over planning is something that I would say don't do.
Well, and that's something that we always preach on the show a lot, is just kind of roll with the punches. So if something happens, your flight's delayed, you didn't catch the train, you didn't get to do your favorite thing, just roll with it. Roll with it. If you roll with it and you're happy and you just make the best of it, you're going to have an awesome time. So if you let yourself get all bent out of shape, you could have been bent out of shape that you didn't have a map, but instead you had an awesome time.
Absolutely. And it allows you to talk to people that are in the area, that are native there. Ask them, talk to them. And if you're into paranormal investigations, ask them what their local legends are. What's haunted around here? The funny thing is, when you tell somebody you're a paranormal investigator, they either look at you like you have two heads, or they want to tell you their ghost story. And most want to tell you their ghost story. And everybody has these, like I said, these little secrets or legends or lore of their hometown that they would love to share with you. So absolutely, when you're out there, just talk to people who are from the area and get to know them and get to know the area.
Yeah, that is great advice.
Love it.
Okay, the next one is today's hidden gem. And hidden gem is a hidden place off the beaten path that our listeners could go check out the next time they're in this area.
Personally, I would say the Ma Barker house in Ocklawaha, Florida. Like I said before, for me, I just have a very deep connection with that house and that location. Aside from the paranormal, just the history of it, it's just an amazing place. For me, it's like I said, it's a 2-story house, 4 bedrooms, but it just has so much history associated with it. Right now, obviously due to COVID, everything is by appointment only. So I would highly recommend just checking out the website, which I believe is mabarkerhouse.org, I believe. But if you just Google Ma Barker House, it'll come up. But I would say that I would highly recommend the Ma Barker House.
mabarkerhouse.org.
I believe that's it.
Well, I'm writing it down anyways.
That's it.
All right. Thank
Awesome.
you. If people want to learn more about you and they want to go check out your videos and watch things, you know what I mean.
Watch all the things.
Watch all the things.
Do all the things. Learn where they should go.
So if you'd like to connect with us, we are on Facebook under Soul Sisters Paranormal. Our website is www.soulsistersparanormal.com. You can learn all about us there, the places that we've gone to, the places that we're going to. We've been asked to speak at different symposiums and paracons, so anything that's on our schedule will be on our website. And we're also on YouTube under Soul Sisters Paranormal. That's where all of our videos are housed, as well as what I call quick clips. So some pieces of compelling evidence that didn't make it into a video, I actually put into 1-minute clips and just call them quick clips. So that's there. Any lives that we've done, we house on YouTube as well. So yeah, pretty much anything under Soul Sisters Paranormal is you type that in and you'll find us.
Is there Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that too?
We don't have a Twitter account. I'm just trying to figure out Instagram. We're on Instagram. It says I have followers. I think I can put stuff up there, but it's one of those that I haven't utilized to its full potential yet. So we do have Instagram under _ Soul Sisters Paranormal _ like I said, anything pretty much if you Google Soul Sisters Paranormal will come up.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I'm really interested in trying this out, Jason.
This was awesome, actually.
We're going to try it out?
Absolutely. And I would love to speak with y'all again. And, if our paths cross and y'all want to get on an investigation with us, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, next time you're in
Awesome.
Indiana, I'd love to check out something in Indiana for sure.
Let's do
the
And maybe we
amusement
could do the
parks.
amusement park thing. The amusement park thing would be cool.
Yeah, let's
Hey,
do it.
yeah, let's do that. I think that'd be a fantastic idea. So
That's awesome.
hopefully we'll
Perfect.
see you on the road soon.
Yep.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, guys. That was Kristy Sumner. Holy crap, that was cool.
She summed it up.
She summed it all up.
No, that was amazing.
I like it because it's so kind of out of the ballpark for what we normally do. So
Yeah. It's something I would have never thought about. I never would have been like, that's a form of travel, but it is, right?
and it's the whole thing was super interesting to me. I don't know. I find the whole thing fascinating.
Do you want to do it? Do you want to go stay the night in the jail?
I don't know if I want to stay overnight. I'm kind of a chicken shit. But
You'd need like a really nice bed and a fridge and
can I get a fridge with some beer and king size bed
in
and
your slippers.
maybe a ceiling fan?
No, I love it. And I love that it's like bringing back history. That's what I think I love about it. Because that is a majority of travel is you're learning about the history of the world. Right?
I think it's cool that the show's all female. I think that's cool that it's very travel focused, history focused.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's a lot based on empathy. I think that's
Yeah.
a cool. I think she's right. About the bravado thing and going in there like throw something at me, come at me, man.
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
I don't know. I like the idea of going in there and be like, hey, we brought you some cigarettes or something like that. I just think it's
Yeah.
a cool, different way that I feel like you don't see it a lot on TV. I think it's very different.
Very true. And in our world right now, who doesn't need empathy? Even like
Right.
the spirits and the ghosts need empathy.
Right.
Like we're all going through right
Well, think
now.
about it. Whoever the person is had a traumatic life, anyways. I mean,
Yeah.
don't you think they're going to respond a little better to a little empathy? They're going to be like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
this person's nice.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever nice to me, and everybody's scared of me because I'm a ghost."
Exactly. And I think it's cool too how she wrapped it into like not always planning it out and just meeting locals. Like, could you imagine this like maybe in another country looking for paranormal activity and just
Yeah.
being like, hey, what are your legends here? And people would love, I think, to
Yeah.
just speak on that. And how cool would that be?
People always like to talk about their local stuff, anyways, no matter what it is. Oh, we got our hamburger. You got to try. You know, whatever it is.
We're like, oh, we have cars that go really fast here.
Right? Yeah. They go really fast in a circle.
And we like watch them.
That's what we're known
I'm
for.
just kidding. I love the
We're
500
so known for that.
total sarcasm. Yeah, no, she was great. Loved it.
So we're gonna try to have Kristy on another episode, and then we'll try to record something if she really comes up here, and we're really gonna try to hook up with her and go check something out here locally. So that would be kind of a cool either show or maybe we'll do like a little short or something like that and do it as like a bonus episode or something maybe.
I think I'd go to the jail with her. Like, I'd do anything once. So I think I would do it and just try it.
We're just
but
gonna make sure that we record Nicole screaming because
You will definitely hear me scream.
I don't think she's gonna be as calm as everybody.
She might kick me out of the investigation.
We don't scream here.
Then I'd be like, I'm sorry. No, it'd be cool. So, yeah, for sure. And find her on her page.
Yeah. What was
Watch her
her
videos.
What was her thing again? We should plug her one more time.
Yep. The link will be below.
SoulSistersParanormal.com. Yes, we'll have a link in our show notes for sure. And Soul Sisters Paranormal on YouTube.
Yeah, check her out.
And check her out. Go watch her. Go like her.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Is that what they do on YouTube? They subscribe, right?
Yes.
So
Push the bell.
push the little bell.
My
right?
daughter's always like, push the bell, Mom. Like, how do you know that?
Speaking of pushing the bell, come check us out. We are still doing our thing out here, and we always like likes, reviews, comments. Come if you think that you'd be good. As always, if you think you'd be good for our show, come send us an email. Nomadic Traveler Podcast @gmail.com. We would love to talk to you. As we've talked about before, we do a little meet and greet, so we can kind of talk to you about your thing. We try to craft the show around you and your story, and it's an opportunity for you to get out and have a little fun, especially in the middle of COVID when there's nothing to do.
And I know we've been getting a lot new followers recently.
We've been getting a ton
We were
of
going
new
to do
followers.
some shout outs because I think the other day, I think we got quite a few in just one
Let's see.
little setting. So we thought, ooh, we should shout some out
Shout some out.
because we love you guys.
Okay.
Shout them out, Jason.
The most recent one was Historias con Motivito. Maybe Spanish.
I like it.
Chris K-R-I-S. Chris followed us.
Hey, Chris, what's up?
Nepal stories for kids. These are all run together, so they're kind of hard to figure them out. And obviously, I didn't practice this ahead of time.
Thank you, Nepal.
Nepal stories for kids. That's cool. Pilot Ander.
Maybe it's like Anderson.
Maybe, yes.
Love it.
PH Scholars. Diddly.
Oh my
I
goodness.
like that one. Diddly.
Diddly.
Diddly. What else do we got? Noble Pod. Previously in the life of Fernita? Or Erica. Jesus, I can't read this. It's so hard. Previously in the life of Erica. Ooh, I like that.
I like
That's a good
Fernita
one.
better.
Fernita. Previously in the life of Fernita.
But also, I like that name too. Thank you, Erica.
So, and then my favorite one so far is Whores. Whores followed us.
Like how? Like WHORES?
Yes.
I love whores. Thanks
That's a good screen name.
Hey, that's a form of travel, maybe.
I get around.
Good times.
Hamosity. Hamosity. I think it's Hamosity. I'm going to go with Hamosity because I like that.
I think if you say it one more time, we might get it. This is my favorite part, is just hearing you say
Listen
them.
to me try to pronounce them.
Yeah.
Next time I will practice them so I don't sound like a dipshit.
Or don't.
Oh,
It's
here
fine.
we go. Here's a good one. Black butterflies.
Ooh.
So we've gotten a ton of new followers. We want to thank everybody that has followed our show recently. You guys all rock. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
As always, we are still on Podit. So you can find our show on podit.net. And you can reach out to us and send us a message on there too if you might like to be on the show and learn more about the show. And what else?
That's it. Thank you, guys. You rock.
You do rock. Uh-oh.
And
we're out of time.
Oh, God, that's great.
So, all right. I think that's all we got for today. We'll see you next week.